Hello. We're inside today. I wanted to go to town again, but we can't go. Andale's parents were busy again. We listened to them leave like we always did, her father talking about factories and her mother about fabric, before coming down into the big empty kitchen once they'd gone. Andale was quiet for a moment, looking around the room. She looked even smaller than usual against all the space around her. I could feel what she felt, so I came a little closer. If both of us stood together, the room didn't feel so big anymore. She smiled. I liked that, and asked me if I wanted some eggs. I did! I really like eggs! Andale is great at making them. She went to get the pan and spices and things, but as she reached for the pepper, her hand stopped. Sitting on the counter was a little square box. It was wrapped in pink paper with a red bow tied around it. A present! Andale seemed just as surprised as I did. There was a note under it, and I forgot about the eggs. She grabbed the box and the note, and we raced back upstairs. I could feel Andale's heart racing. She was excited to see what it was. We reached her room and she closed the door, sitting down in the middle of the floor. I sat down across from her as she put the package down. We both stared at it. I don't think Andale wanted to open it quite yet. One of the best parts of getting a present is trying to figure out what it is. It wasn't very big, just a little longer than one of my paws, or Andale's hands. Not very thick either. Andale said it might be some kind of secret communication device. Maybe her father was a spy and had entrusted her with keeping it safe. She asked what I thought. I had a hard time thinking of much of anything. I don't know very many things yet. But Andale thought of lots of things. She said it might be a little fairy mirror to cast spells and look into the future, or a box of wishes. We thought about it for a long time before she finally read the note. It was printed on paper that smelled of flowers. The words on it were loopy and curvy and beautiful. It said, "Dear Andale, your father and I are sorry we haven't been around as much as we would like. We will do something fun soon, I promise. In the meantime, we thought you deserved a little treat. There's paper on your nightstand. Enjoy. Your mother." Andale couldn't wait any longer after that. She ripped open the present and saw what was inside. It was a box. It wasn't very big. It was orange and had a flip-open lid. Andale opened it, and inside there were a bunch of shiny little things of all different colors. Andale gasped and raced over to her nightstand to grab the paper her mother had left. I followed behind, but I was confused. I didn't know what the gift was. It looked pretty, but it didn't look like any of the things Andale had guessed at earlier. She took the paper and lay on the ground, staring at the little box with a frown on her face. I asked her what was wrong, and she said she didn't know what color to pick. She must have noticed that I was confused, because she tilted her head and chuckled. Andale said she forgets how new I am sometimes. She said that the things in the box were crayons. They were like little pencils, except made of wax and magic, that you could draw things with. I asked her to show me, so she did. Andale picked a light blue one, like the color of my eyes. She said it was her favorite. She pressed the tip to the paper and drew it back and forth quickly. It left beautiful marks behind as it went, filling the paper with color. Andale filled the entire top of it with blue, then smiled at me. She said that was the sky. I felt my tail wagging. That was amazing! I always thought Andale made the world, and that was more proof. Only someone who could do something like that could make a sky for themselves. Andale just laughed and grabbed the yellow crown to make a sun to match. I lay down at her side and watched her create a world. The grass was purple and the trees were yellow. Andale was a good world maker. I liked the one she made for me best, but this one was nice too. She finished that drawing and got another piece of paper. She put the end of a purple crown to her lip. She didn't know what to make now, so she asked me. I thought for a moment. I'd never made a world before, so I didn't really know what to say. Still, if Andale needed my help, I had to try my best. She seemed to love what she was doing, so I suggested she draw something she loved. Andale paused for a moment after that. I could feel her thoughts moving like butterflies. She settled on one, but it wasn't like the others. It didn't fly about through her mind like a leaf in the wind. This one was heavy and old. It was a thought that made me think of an old rock, like the foundation to a house, except it was warm and cold, all at the same time, like it didn't quite know which it should be. Andale grabbed a pale pink crayon and began to create. She drew a large circle first, a face. It was a round face, the kind that looked like it smiled a lot. She drew a neck and shoulders and a nice dress. It was the color of my eyes, with little flowers on it. The woman had curly hair like Andale's that fell around her shoulders. Andale drew the woman under a tree. She didn't make the tree yellow this time. It was green, like real ones. She drew flowers and a bright yellow sun, but she was more careful, more exact. When she finished, she'd made a woman. She was pretty. She looked a lot like Andale, only older. A lot older. She was smiling. Andale stared at the drawing for a long time. I felt something complicated. It was like happiness, light and good and warm in your chest, but also hard and cold and wet. It was nice, but it hurt. Like getting a paper cut from your favorite book, or pricking your finger on a flower. The room was quiet, until we heard something coming down the hallway. The sound of a door opening. There was only one door in the house with someone on the other side. Her brother's door. She gasped and I felt her surprise. He had steps that were heavy, but not the same way her father's footsteps were heavy. They felt like lead stones dropping onto the floor, like he was carrying a great weight on his back. They were uneven. The second step always came up short, like a hiccup you couldn't get rid of. And in a moment, he was there. I saw him framed in the doorway outside her room, only for a moment. He was taller than Andale by a lot. Andale hadn't talked about him very much, but I knew that he was older, though I couldn't tell how much. He had black curly hair, like Andale's, but he had different eyes, ancient eyes. He didn't look like an old man, but he felt like one. He was dressed like he'd just gotten out of bed, and he only stood there for a moment, those old eyes meeting hers. Then he was gone. I don't know why, but for a moment, I could have sworn I saw something trailing behind him. Something that wasn't quite there, yet it was. A big, dark, black something, like an ink stain that moved against the wall. He passed before I could be sure. It might have just been a shadow. His hiccuping footsteps walked down the hall, and Andale's brother was gone. I turned to her with a worried whine, but she wasn't next to me anymore. She'd put the crowns down, and she was in the corner, hugging her knees tightly. That complicated feeling was worse now. Much worse. There wasn't so much happy in it anymore. Now it was colder, harder. It felt like crystals of ice forming in Andale's worried heart. It hurt. It really hurt. It felt like all the light in the world was gone. I looked at the picture she'd left on the ground. She'd crossed everything out with angry black crayon. I couldn't see the woman anymore, only the dark. I shuddered. Andale was hurting. I didn't want that. I had to help. I called her name, but I don't think she heard me. I tried to walk close, but something was pushing me back. A cold wind that felt dark and greasy in the air. I felt fuzzy, fuzzier than I felt in a long time, like it was trying to push me out of Andale's world. But I couldn't go. I couldn't leave her. Not like this. Not huddled in the corner. Not hurting like that. I tried to look for something, anything to help her. I saw the crayons. I can't touch things. But if Andale could create things, maybe I could too. I looked at the white crayon, and I thought. I thought hard. I thought of how Andale used them, how they felt waxy and cool under her fingers, the sound of it scratching its way across paper, and I reached out with my mouth to grab it. Crayons don't taste very good. The white crown was still there on the ground, but somehow I was also holding it. I didn't have time to think about it. I leaned down to the paper. I'm not very good with crayons. I don't have thumbs. I drew the only thing I could think of in the dark, angry lines Andale had scratched across the paper. I drew stars. I thought about stars then, how warm and bright and hot they burn in the night sky, though we couldn't see them. I thought about all the good things Andale had told me. I thought about dinner rolls, and birds, and fairies, and the first time she hugged me. The stars came to life. They floated off the paper and began to float towards Andale as she held herself in the corner. They twinkled and shined and pressed their way through the greasy, cold dark. I still felt fuzzy, but as they glowed, I felt whole again. Andale looked up in surprise and saw them there. Her eyes looked red and heavy, but they reflected those stars. I called her name again, and this time she looked at me. Really looked. She sniffled and dried her eyes, and faster than I thought she could move, her arms were around my neck, hugging me tight as the stars danced around us. I didn't speak anymore. She didn't need me to. Andale needed a quiet moment, to hold someone. And while I can't give her much, I can give her that. I looked down at the picture as she held me, the stars above the woman obscured in black. I wanted to know more about her, but now wasn't the time to ask. I'm not sure how long we stayed there, in her room, huddled close to chase the cold away, but I think there is a lot more to learn about Andale's world. I heard her brother's uneven steps walk back to his room, and for a moment, again, I saw something dark, trailing in his wake.
This has been a production of Universe in the Box. Stray Ami is written by S. Anon and Ellerby J. Blanc is voiced by R. Andam and Andale by Tenkage. Original music composed by Trevor Hamer. All rights reserved. For more information on our shows and productions, check out our website at universeinthebox.com. And if you'd like to contribute your talents to the show, send us a message at universeinthebox@gmail.com. Also, consider donating. A portion of all donations go to the Animal Care and Control Center of Jacksonville, Florida. Thank you for listening.